when they gripe, I say, hey, that's on the other side of that gripe, there's an opportunity. Are you going to come and fix it? Because what we're about is creating the space so people can come fix problems and create value for others. You know, Prospera is like it used to be and like it should be. Whatever is not against the law, you can do. If you have agency, you just come and do it. So you can conceivably see 8 years down the horizon where things are happening. For Prospera, 8 years is a massive amount of time. Massive. Look at what we did in 4 years with the whole opposition. Everybody thought we were going to be swept into the ocean, and we grew.
This episode of the Free Cities podcast is brought to you by Veritas Villages. Now, Veritas Villages are freedom-oriented, energy self-sufficient luxury communities designed for people who want to enjoy peace of mind and real freedom in today's unpredictable world. Join a community of like-minded neighbours who value privacy and independence in a place where you can use Bitcoin, including for the purchase of your property. www.veritasvillages.com/free cities for more info, and in the meantime, enjoy the conversation. I don't actually like riding myself.
I love to ride, but I just don't. I wish there was a place I could live and ride, you know, that was next to each other. But I don't love it enough to be inconvenienced by it that much.
How much? Where do you live, Gabe, just out of interest? Are you in around and about?
Yeah. I live primarily in Guatemala City, which is where my family's from originally and everything. And then in Prospera, I come. For the first 7 years, I came almost every other week. But I couldn't move because my kids were young. They were in school, kind of like yours, embedded.
I think I saw you had. Did you bring two daughters with you this time?
I did. Yeah. I brought two of my daughters.
I saw them, and they were sat in front of me once on their phones. It seems to be pretty boring for them, is it not? Do they like all that stuff?
Well, my 21-year-old liked some of them. She was like struck by the ZEDE story of his cancer. They liked the Tomas Pueblo chat, which I thought was really good. And she liked a couple of the other science-minded ones because she's science-minded. My 14-year-old, she was bored out of her mind. But I really wanted them to see what was going on here, you know, with the entrepreneurs that were coming, the people that were coming, so they can get a sense of it. So it rattles around in their brain, even if they're not paying attention to that right now.
Well, look, that is one of the things. This is why I've come out here for the month, right? And I'm already reaping the rewards of being around all these people. I'll give you an example. Yesterday was a Sunday, right?
Yep.
I started work at 6 a.m. and I was working until 10:30 last night.
No kidding.
Yeah, on a Sunday.
Yeah, on a Sunday.
Sundays back in the UK, I'm like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
We're cooking, we're hanging out, we're doing, you know, when you come here, there's just this
energy.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, that's the problem.
Yeah, but I mean, is it a problem?
Well, no, it's not a problem. Well, for me, it's a problem if I come with my kids, because basically what happened, I flew in on Wednesday and it's been nonstop for me. Nonstop. The only time I spent with my kids, myself and my two daughters that are here, was yesterday afternoon. We went to lunch, we watched a movie, we went swimming. But other than that is, hey, let's meet, let's talk. And then I want to meet and talk because there's so many interesting things going on. Like all the guys that came for this event was probably the highest quality, density-wise, of interesting people. We've had individuals that are so better known, like when Naval came or something like that. But in terms of the density of people that were here talking about interesting things and how they're moving the world forward, this was probably one of the best.
And I would say that's to do with Nicholas inviting them. It's not necessarily that more people know. Is that right? Would you say that?
Yeah, no. There's to have the quality of people here that are now coming, I think takes a couple of things. Number one, enough time has gone by that the name Prospera has percolated in the environment, so people are starting to get really curious. And the other is a thing, you have a sort of an L2, a company that's set up like Infinita with a leader like Nicholas that really is out there lobbying and saying, hey, you need to come, you need to check it out, you need to experience it, you need to see how this can benefit you, and pitching it to the point where they say, hey, island in the Caribbean, startup city, or whatever you want to call it, you know, makes it so interesting and so compelling that they end up coming. And now the beauty is these guys came. Now the other guys that haven't come, now they're thinking of coming because they have to come see it for themselves. Right. So it's like a snowball slowly rolling down
It's
the
an
hill.
interesting time, isn't it?
It is.
I feel that after our conference at the end of last year, I was absolutely buzzing. Because I was recording. I didn't see a lot of the talks, but I was recording interviews constantly, and just from that, the percolation, the kind of, the excitement, which is why I'd say, look, I've got to immerse myself further in it, because it's not enough to just. I find it. I live a pretty disparate life. I live on a farm, down the end of a track, and I have online meetings and I do all this kind of stuff. But really, you can't beat being around people like this, getting in a lift and saying, which floor are you on? And by the end of the lift, you've had a conversation about some weird thing. And this guy's your new best friend. It's that kind of thing.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I live in a building in Guatemala. It's my office. It's my home. And I work a lot out of there. But when I come here and you just do serendipitous meetings with people, you bump into different people and people from all over the world, which is amazing. Germans, Ukrainians, Belarusians, Hondurans, Guatemalans, Argentinians. So it's like all these interesting people converging, and there's something about physical energy that you cannot get in a Zoom call.
Well, and also the days, the structure of your life that you were living just disappears. I mean, and it's very noticeable if you've got children.
Yeah, it's true.
Because I don't have to. I can be incredibly selfish here. All I do is get up, decide what I want to do it, and then go to bed in the evening. And I mean, like yesterday, I didn't even have food.
Really?
It's a problem. I mean, obviously things like this will all get sorted, but I got to like 9:30 at night and I'm like, I should pop out and get something to eat. I couldn't find it.
No, of course. Everything's closed on a Sunday. Are you kidding? Yeah, everything's going to be open.
So
But these are things that will get solved, I agree.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I was chatting, I've had some conversations with people where what about this? What about this? What about this? And I said, it's very difficult to criticize something like this, because what do you expect? Like, what do you expect? If you look at it as a whole, you've got this phenomenal. You imagine what planning, what meetings, what conversations, what effort, what energy went into building this whole thing. So if you pick on some little gripes, you're not doing the place a service there, because they're going to get fixed. This is a frontier. And in fact, Prospera, it's very obvious when you look at it. It's obvious currently it's like a bunch of kind of monoliths that have been inserted and they're not quite connected yet. You can see that. But that's absolutely fine. That's the way it's supposed to work in a way. It's not like we just dump everything in one place and then see if it works. It's not that the model's different to that. I don't know whether you agree with that.
No, I agree with that. And what I tell people, like I hear people sometimes want to talk to me primarily to gripe, or if they have an idea. Those are like the two main things, right? When they gripe, I say, hey, that's on the other side of that gripe, there's an opportunity. Are you going to come and fix it? Because what we're about is creating the space so people can come fix problems and create value for others. So whether there's no food at 9:30, why don't you set up a DoorDash, for example, set up a dark kitchen, and then you provide food at those hours. And so people, I think we live in a world where people are used to seeing something they don't like, living in an environment where somebody can say, oh, but you could have solved it this way. And all they have to do is pick up the phone or go, and solve it that way. Prospera is different, absolutely, because everything has to be built from zero. When people gripe about the cost of power, okay, let's set up a solar farm or let's bring in power generation. People argue about the cost of a real estate development, the cost of a square meter. Yeah, we have to fix the logistics. We have to fix, how we bring things into the island, how things are transported. So all these things are opportunities. But the beauty is that these opportunities can be solved because the regulatory environment doesn't get in the way, right? In other places, you can't solve them because the regulatory system's in the way. So you even if you have agency in these other places, you can't get around the regulatory barrier because that is an enormous lift. But here you can.
I agree with you. And I think if you come to a frontier expecting to be able to not face any problems, you're insane. I mean, imagine
you're a pioneer.
Exactly.
Basically, you're a pioneer, and you have to have a pioneering mentality.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
Imagine settling the US and expecting no problems.
Exactly.
So come on then, let's talk about problems. What are the main things that you think at the moment that really need solving, or at least need energy put into them? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but the Prospera model is very much a kind of put it out to tender and put the problem out to tender and have someone come and fix it, rather than someone in government or in power or in a central authority saying, right, we're gonna do this, this, and this. That's my impression. And if I look at what's actually being developed, you see Nomad Village. That's these people coming in and building something. Bitcoin City, is that a correct way to look at it?
Well, tender. If by tender you mean somebody sitting in an office thinking, oh, we need this, let's put out a tender for that project.
Not exactly.
Okay.
I meant it as a colloquial
but if
term.
it's spontaneous tender, yes. So what I mean by spontaneous tender is that there are all these opportunities. Prospera is like it used to be and like it should be. Whatever is not against the law, you can do. If you have agency, you just come and do it. And so you have Nomad, and you have Bitcoin Village, and you have Darien. All these places that are spontaneously happening. Somebody sees an opportunity in the market. What if we serve the market this way? What if we bring the community here? What if we bring the Bitcoiners here, et cetera? And they go out and they create the solution. And then, for example, have you met Ivan that's doing Darien in conjunction with us? He's from Ukraine.
I don't know.
He's a good guy to talk about. But what's a Ukrainian doing here, right? So he and I are doing a village in the back of Duna. It's called Darien. It's short-term rental, small apartment. But he's also doing a music festival place because he saw the opportunity. He said, you know what? I like music. I like festivals. I like art. Why don't we do this thing? So, in a way, the tender is there because you can go and do it if you want.
Did you say you're creating a venue for music festivals?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
So he's going to do that.
Okay.
It's going to be, I think he's looking, I don't know what stage he's at, but he's looking at a property we have just to the west of here, walking distance, and it's on the water. So it's going to be really nice. You have live bands playing, and you can have DJs and food and people hanging out, and it's next to the beach. I think it's going to be a phenomenal thing. Phenomenal.
Have you got a long-term vision personally, when you imagine it, or is it much more? Is it just evolving? Could you see your own particular vision of this place be completely wrong, for example, or do you really think, yeah, I know what it's going to look like eventually?
No, I think within a certain framework, the vision that we have is, I think, the vision that's going to happen, but it's not that granular. So we have a master plan, right? And if you talk about real estate specifically, so we have a master plan. The vision of the master plan is, how do you create a city that's not car centric? Right now, it's very car centric. Unfortunately, we don't have the two properties linked through an internal road. Once that happens, you're going to have bikes going back and forth and golf carts going back and forth, and you're going to have people walking back and forth. But the vision is to have a walkable, sort of dense, more packed together place, because that's what people really enjoy for the most part. I think nobody enjoys getting into a car to go visit their grandmother. It sucks, right? But you enjoy walking over to your grandma's. You get the walk, you get, you get to bump into people and all these things. What are the buildings going to look like? I don't know. I mean, we're having spontaneous types of architecture happening, all the time here. Duna is one way, Darien's going to be another way, Nomad's going to be another way. And so I think that the architecture is going to be fully spontaneous. We're trying to push things towards a alternate mobility scenario, but the property is also, as you know, quite sparse. If you look at all the way to the east of the golf course, and I'm sorry I can't show people visually what that looks like here, but right now we have no buildings there. It's just a golf course, etc. But eventually there are plans to have buildings there, and so how are those buildings going to fit into everything else? And there's a business district, and there's that business district is a mixed use business district, which is similar to more what you would expect in a European type city, where you have first floor maybe commerce and maybe restaurants and bars, and then second floor might be office spaces, and maybe top floors would be living spaces and that type of thing. There's some examples like that are non-spontaneous, like Cayala in Guatemala, which is a good Santa Catalina in Costa Rica. So these villages that are models for what the vision is. But one thing I can tell you is we all hate having to get in a car and driving around. And by the way, that's one of the biggest things people gripe about, how people have to get into cars right now. But it's going to get solved, as you said.
Well, it's not even getting into the car that's the problem. It's having to drive out of Prospera, into the middle of the island, along, and then back on. So it's quite a simple. I say simple. A simple procedure to connect here to Pristine Bay. Just straight
physically,
directly.
Yes. Yeah.
But is it hilly? Is it?
No, the problem isn't a problem. It's a problem of property. So the owners of the property don't want us to create a road through their property. I thought
there was a land bridge there. Is that not true?
A land? What do you mean by
as
land
in
bridge?
like you own land all the way to?
Not yet. No.
Oh, right.
No.
I see.
We have the right of way. So where we are right now, which is the Beta District, we have an adjacent land to the east, which we creatively call the 9.55 acres because it's 9.55 acres. Very creative. And that's where the Bitcoin district, I think, is going. And that's where I think the music festival place is going. And we have a road that connects there, and we have a right of way to use that. But from there on to Pristine Bay, which is only like 500 meters, we can't build because they won't allow us.
Fair enough. I mean, people have property rights.
People have property rights, yeah.
So what do you think might happen there then?
So I speculate that what's going on is they want us to buy the land or have somebody that's friendly buy the land, and that's why they don't want the road. They figure if we give them right away, they lose the incentive to buy. And so, but we have a lot of land already. So I think that what needs to happen is a third party can come in that's a friendly, buy the land, or we might eventually buy the land. But it's something we want to solve. We want to solve the road.
Why wouldn't you buy it? Why would you want a third party?
No, we would want to buy it ourselves, but the needs of capital and the users of capital are enormous for a project like this. You have so many things you need to do.
Right.
And we also have the property on the mainland that we need to enable, which is a nearshoring hub, Satuye. Have you been there?
No, I haven't.
It'd be interesting for you to go out there and check it out.
That's not residential though, is it?
It's going to be a city just like this one, but it's more industrial focused.
And am I get this right? There's also going to be traffic between there and here on the sea.
Yeah. There's a port. The property is right next to the current port of the municipal port, but on the east side rather than on the west side. And it's a property it's a pristine property. It's a greenfield. There's going to be a lot of nearshoring activity there, industrial activity there, energy, exports. That's the vision. That's the vision for that. And in Honduras, there's a lot of good
This is why I say, you can't come in and criticize what's going on, because these are very big thoughts to have, and very long-term thoughts as well. I think, you don't do this place a service if you pick on the small things. This is what my wife does that I hate. I'd do something really impressive, but there'll be one small thing that she didn't like, and that's the thing we focus on. But wow, so the port on the mainland will presumably be a hub for things coming in, and then they'll get directed here. Is that?
Well, do you want to know the original high level vision? Is you have the Hong Kong style hub in Roatan, which is where we're at right now. Services, biotech, fintech, living in a beautiful island like Roatan, hilly with views from every corner. You have a wonderful view, warm water, connected to the U.S. And everywhere. And then on the mainland, you have the more industrial type city like Shenzhen. And the beauty of that model is that you need to try to keep costs as low as possible for manufacturing. So you have to have the prices of land need to be low, so your infrastructure prices can be low. So when you pass that on to the consumer, which everything needs to be passed on to the consumer, those costs are low. On the island, it's expensive. Energy is expensive. Land is expensive because it's finite and it's difficult to get. But the vision is you have the Shenzhen of Central America or of America in the mainland and the Hong Kong on the mainland, and they're connected by drone. Right. So
how long does it take? What's the flight time?
It's close. It's only 60 kilometers, I think.
God, drones going 60 kilometers freaks me out, but it obviously happens quite a lot.
Well, it's going to happen more and more,
Yeah.
and we're headed in that direction. Autonomous flight is coming. I mean, we already have autonomous two-dimensional driving with Elon's Tesla, and three-dimensional is easier, right?
It's not much to bump into, is it?
Nothing to bump into, no people, no people running across the street from you. So it's actually, I think it's going to come actually much more quicker because the technologies are converging. You have the drone technology that's very safe. Multiple levels of failure can happen and you can still fly. And then you have the autonomous, the flying autonomously part. And what's important about that is that if you don't have pilots, you decrease the whole price of the whole stack.
It's funny, I remember 4 years ago, whatever, the first time we came here, people showed me drawings and pictures of things like that, and I just thought it was a nice idea, but very wishy-washy, very unrealistic. But it's not, is it?
It's actually taken longer than I thought, but it's coming. It's coming. I mean, I have no doubt about it. I mean, you already see in China, there's taxi services that are drone-based, 100% drone-based. So that's going to happen here. And why not? And not only that, from a regulatory perspective, that's not a problem. As long as you have insurance.
What would happen, though, if you were flying taxis over the ocean there? Presumably, do you have regulatory autonomy
not
out to sea a little bit?
No, but I think that with the current government, and that's one of the issues that we're working on, right? The situation with the government, which I think is always on people's mind. With the current government and with a friendly government that understands, that's very solvable. Because there's nothing, what you would need to look out for a few things. So you need to coordinate with the national aviation authorities because of international traffic and local traffic. But that's easy to solve. Then within the zone itself, that's easy to solve because that falls back under the zone itself. So you need to solve the piece that's in the middle. From a permit standpoint, and you can dovetail that right into the current administration's or flight authority.
Do you, in your experience, do they get it? I know the former government didn't get it and didn't care, and actually were ideologically opposed to it. But do the new guys get it? Can you have that conversation with them when you say, look, there's going to be flying stuff, and there's going to be this, and there's going to be that?
No. We're having those conversations, and they really get it. They really get it. Now, you have to, there's politics involved, and politics involves popularity and power because of how people support you or don't support you. So they have to be careful, but they really get it. And the problem is always how much time do you have? Because if these guys do a good job, and from everything I've seen, they have everything, it's theirs to screw it up. Really, it's theirs to screw it up. They have tremendous amount of people that are really disgusted with what happened in the last 4 years because their own personal results were bad. There was no jobs. There was no increases in productivity, salaries, loss of opportunities. And these guys come in. Everybody's excited about what they're doing, how they're presenting things. Investors are looking at the zone, at Honduras in general, even beyond Prospera, and thinking, wow, there's an opportunity here. And if they do it right, they can get another 4 years. I mean, another candidate of a similar-minded party. It doesn't even have to be the same party, but as long as they're similar-minded. So you can conceivably see 8 years down the horizon where things are happening. For Prospera, 8 years is a massive amount of time. Massive. Look at what we did in 4 years with the whole opposition. Everybody thought we were going to be swept into the ocean. And we grew. Everything was up and to the right. Everything was up and to the right. Population, jobs, companies, tax revenue, by the way, which we pay to the government their share. So I think I'm very excited about what's going to happen here.
I also think that, and this is something that if you're in this ecosystem, you understand, but you can't underestimate how important Prospera still being here after all the shit you've just been through is it's a massive deal.
Yeah, it's a massive deal.
I don't think people get how massive it is. But if you're building in this space, you have a model, a proven model now. I mean, I always say this to people, but socialist governments are like the final boss for these places. So, and if you
I love that analogy, by the way.
Well, they are, aren't they?
You have to get all your potions ready. And
exactly. You've got to get everything. You've got to be powered up.
You have to be powered up.
And essentially, Prospera was powered up, and they shut you down, but didn't shut you down. Yep. They said no, and nothing happened. And now it's better than ever. Yep. This is brilliant news because they weren't just a dodgy government; they were a proper anti-free market government. Yeah. And the legal protections work, the community protections work, all the stuff that everyone had been working on for a while. And I know you could have done some things better and some things, but it doesn't matter now. It doesn't matter. There's a working example of what happens when the worst thing happens. Yes. And not just like niggly problems. It's like, the big problem.
Agreed.
So, and I think when you start trying to build these things, then you'll probably understand how important that is, that you can go to a government in Costa Rica now and say, look at this. Yep. Look at what's happening. Yep. Look at what happened and look at how much better it is now. Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, I've got a lot of, the night of the election, we stayed up and stuff, it was it was a big deal. I was watching Polymarket for weeks afterwards as well going, come on, man. I think everyone had a sense of what was going on. Yeah. But they didn't, they let it drag out. Hey.
Yeah. I think that we learned a hell of a lot about things that we never hypothesized about what could happen. So the founders of the system, of the ZEDE system in government, they thought out, this can happen, A can happen, B can happen, C can happen. So let's put in this protection, this protection, this protection, this protection. And those protections worked. I think what we always expected not to have that political side as well, because what we wanted to do was come and build the systems, the city, attract the people to come and live here and build value and all these things. But it ended up being that we needed to make some pretty critical choices. When the last government won the election, I remember we sat down in the conference room here in the Beta building, and it was like, all right, these guys won. They hate the concept. They hate it. They've sworn politically as their top priority to get rid of it. Do we push forward? Do we pause and take a wait-and-see attitude? Do we redeploy somewhere else and try to start? But there was nowhere else to go because there was no framework that's anywhere in the world, and there still isn't, as far as I know. That's this broad. So the decision, which I think was very, very courageous, was we're going to lean into it. We're gonna just go for it, and it's going to entail a bunch of risks in terms of capital consumption, in terms of personal risk, and all these things. And to our surprise, I think to our surprise, there were people that stepped up, investors. Like, we raised a bunch of money right after the negative election. I was like, wow. I think people saw in us just guys that weren't going to give up,
Do you know what I saw? It's a bit more grand. It's a bit more primitive than that.
What's that?
I saw bad socialist ideas losing in the end. Do you know what I mean? You can't look at the idea of, sort of free market economics and private places and private governance. You can't look at it and understand it and decide it's a bad idea. Yeah. There are parts of it that you want to do well and streamline and get better and stuff. But when you compare it to the ideal that we wanted to shut you down, which is the polar opposite of it, it's a really bad idea.
It's a terrible idea.
Really bad idea. Yeah. And I'm not saying that because I'm on this side of the fence. It's like I've thought deeply about both of them, and it is a bad idea.
Yeah, but the problem, yes, I agree. And I think what happens is many times really good ideas are killed. And then you look back and you say, oh, it was a bad idea to kill it. But by that point, you've killed it.
Yeah, but there's an idea. It'll pop up.
Yeah.
And I know that, the
but
ZEDE is rescinded and the law was rescinded and all this kind of stuff. But I think the idea is already, I think it's out now. It's resurging, this idea, you know.
yes, but I want to qualify that, if I may. I think the idea definitely would have survived. More people would have tried. But I think that we would have been on different curves. So if we had not survived, Prospera had not survived, then Morazan wouldn't have survived, and then, you know, the other one wouldn't have survived either. So the idea would have survived, but it would have been a slow burning idea till some other country decided it wanted to try it. That might have been 5 years, 20 years, 100 years. By Prospera surviving, as you said, now there's a model that people can look to and say, hey, look at Honduras. That thing survived the guys that wanted to destroy it. That place is attracting enormous amounts of investment. It's catalyzing an economic boom in Honduras that hasn't been seen in you know, maybe in 100 years or 200 years. It's doing all of these things. So you're on a different trajectory versus with respect to these ideas in other locations. And I said it I think in one of the panels, that I said the most important thing that can happen now with this new government, for every other project out there, for every other entrepreneur, citypreneur looking to do this in other countries, is for Prospera to be successful. Because the more successful we are, the more people can point to us and say, we're going to replicate that in our country.
No, I do definitely agree with that. And we were talking about this prior to the election as well. This was a very hot topic of discussion amongst everyone we knew. That plus I had lived through 2.5 years of talking about these things without a proven model. Yep. And it didn't surface a lot, but it did surface in the end. Whenever you're discussing these ideas, whenever you're talking about these things, you always end up hitting that ceiling at some point where it's like, okay, but their ideas, show me the practice.
Yep.
And even though Prospera existed and it was running, the main thing is that the protections worked, because they are everything. What have you got without the protections? You've got no property without property rights. You know, you've got no protections.
Yeah, but I'll say something quickly about the protections. You have to have the protections, but you have to have the willingness to use them. And that's where I give our team tremendous amount of credit, because there were other cities who I respect the founders of them, but they chose to dovetail behind us rather, which is fine. I mean, but what I'm saying is, for Prospera, the courage it took for our leadership, our team, to say there are all these protectors and we're going to use them. It's like you have a gun, there's somebody walking in through the window, and you can choose not to use the weapon. And who knows what's going to happen? Maybe they'll take out your stuff. Maybe you'll get killed, or you have the option to use the weapon. And in our case, I think that the courageous thing was that we chose to protect what we had with everything we have, at the risk of failing massively, because we could have failed massively.
Well, also at the risk of PR, because, I mean, I know Prospera, you're not the greatest at PR sometimes, I'll be honest with you, but in this particular instance, I saw it spun very quickly into billionaires are trying to sue the Honduran people. Basically, obviously, that was the way that they were going to, you know. So yeah, I just think props to everyone. Brilliant result. It's like you know, you watch a football game and it could have gone either way. Really could have gone either way.
Shot off the post.
But when you've actually won, you can celebrate that fact and get on with stuff. And you know.
Yeah, and you know, there's another thing about that I think is Eric and I in particular talk about this a lot. There's a feeling of that providence is on our side on this. I cannot explain it. But there's this deeply held belief that it's going to work out. You know, we're going to put in all the effort we can, but also there's something that's helping us. You know, Tolkien has the word eucatastrophe. So this is our eucatastrophe in a way.
Explain that one. I don't know what, I've never heard that one
So
before.
There's catastrophe is when things go terribly, terribly wrong. Eucatastrophe is the opposite of that. So things are going to work out. And it's a term Tolkien developed to describe his universe, you know, his Middle-earth universe, and how the forces of evil embodied in Sauron looked like they were going to sweep everybody into the sea and off the board. And then this little hobbit from the Shire managed to destroy everything, right? So here we are. I mean, if you think about it, in a way, it was the hobbits versus Sauron, you know, because we are just a bunch of guys. We have no political power. We don't have any tools other than our minds and our desire to get this done, and to enroll others into the cause. And that's what we did.
No, you're absolutely right. So how much can you talk about the current situation with regards to the ZEDE law, the talking with government, the new government, just whatever you can say.
Sure. Sure. So let me talk first about what happened with the law. So there's two aspects to the law. There's a constitutional amendment and there's the organic law. The organic law is the details on how to implement what was mandated constitutionally. The organic law was repealed. So that means all the details on how to create a zone, the institutions that were there to supervise the zone, etc., were repealed. Now, for existing zones, the law can't apply retroactively. So for existing zones, our argument has always been, fine, you can't have new zones, which is a disadvantage to Honduras. But it's not a disadvantage to us because we already exist. We already made investments. We already attracted all these things. So we have a legal stability agreement. That's a 50-year legal stability agreement, and that applies to us. Now, the constitutional mandate was not repealed, which means that the zones continue to exist constitutionally. If this government wanted to re-enable the system, they would need to create a new organic law for new players.
Sorry about it. That's interesting. I assumed the law, I've always heard that the actual constitutional change was repealed.
No. What happened was something different. What they did is they failed at repealing the constitutional change, so they went the judicial route. Now, so what happened was there was a change in the Supreme Court of Honduras. A lot of politics goes into that as everywhere in the world, but here too. And they declared it unconstitutional.
Well, hold a minute. The change?
The organic, the constitutional change. But then, so, the headline is constitutional change of ZEDE repealed. Well, not really. If you dig into the text of what the Supreme Court said, it doesn't mandate anything. It doesn't really. It sort of uses very loose language and blah blah blah. So these guys claimed a political victory that in reality didn't mean anything. So
I think also I watched the bit that I observed was pretty much that when they were on the back foot, the narrative changed to, well, we're stopping any new ones happening.
Yeah.
And that was a good sign for me. When I saw that, I was like, hey, that's great. Yeah. Because that's basically them admitting defeat because they've just lowered their achievement. I thought the achievement, and until you just said that, I assumed the repeal of the constitutional change had happened. Yeah. Right. That's fascinating.
And I think the guy to talk to about that, if you can, is Jorge Colindres.
Yes.
He really has a fine detail of that and why it doesn't apply to us, and why it's still on the books and why it can still start up again. But we've had a lot of independent opinions written about that too, by top law firms from the region and international. But I think that also, there's something else that I think is very important, which is that the previous government, they used the ZEDE as you use a piñata at a party, When it's time to distract the guests from anything, you pull out the piñata and you beat the crap out of the piñata. And then if something's going on that you don't like, you bring out the piñata again and you beat the crap out of it again. So every time something bad was happening in the country, they would talk about ZEDEs. They would talk about loss of sovereignty, which is not true, by the way. They would lie, make all of these things up about the zone, about Prospera, about the investors in Prospera, about the leaders of Prospera. All these lies. Easily dispelled, by the way. So all you need to do was a little bit of research, and that was a piñata. So I don't even think they cared so much about the ZEDE. It was just a very useful political tool for them.
I'm almost certain that that's true.
Yeah.
And the other really interesting thing that's happened over the last couple of years is your interactions with the media have changed, and on account of you interacting with different types of media and bigger, like YouTubers and places where you get long form explanations for things. It's really, I mean, it's amazing when you think about the fortuitousness of the situation you find yourself in. Well, you think about it, there are a lot of things that are new. Like the alternative media scene. Yeah. Pretty new, isn't it, really? Yeah. Like sitting and talking like this, pretty new. But who would, after you've listened to the actual explanation, who would go and listen to a 5-minute snippet on the news and try and work out what's going on there?
Probably somebody just ideologically minded that wants confirmation bias to what they think already. I couldn't agree more. I mean, the fact that we can put our own story out, that there's these long form conversations, that you can ask tough questions and their answers or not, or, you know. But getting back to the government situation, which you asked earlier, so it's important to have in mind the actual legal status of the framework and the non-retroactive nature of what's happened. And you know, we actually, when we attempted for a year to negotiate with the previous government and got nowhere, they didn't even want to meet with us, is when we activated the arbitration clauses in the bilateral treaty with the U.S., which is called CAFTA, and we actually sued the government in ICSID for a substantial amount, and we were criticized for that too. But we were just protecting the rights of the investors, you know, that had come here and in good faith made the investment that we made. So with this government, there's a completely different mentality. Their mentality is, how can we move Honduras into the 21st century? How can we attract a ton of investment? How can we help investors set up? How can we change the perspective of what Honduras is in the minds of foreigners for it to be a forward-looking nation? And you know, it's interesting because Bukele in El Salvador has had a pretty interesting effect. He's a competitor, right? So you're a country like Honduras, like Guatemala, and you look at El Salvador and you're thinking, damn, that guy's really screwing it up for me, because now I can't talk about my usual talking points politically. Now I need to do something about it, because in reality, El Salvador is a very safe place now and all these things. So what's the best tool in my arsenal? Turns out that the best tool in Honduras' arsenal is this project, because now they don't have to change a bunch of things. They don't have to establish a certain level of credibility in the changes that they have made to attract investment. They can say, hey, you have a platform. It's right there. Let's execute on it right now. Let's bring billions of dollars in investments, create thousands and thousands of jobs. It's already here. So they have just a massive tool that they can leverage. And they know it. They know it. We have a lot of friendlies. Now, it's a minefield, right? There's mines everywhere politically. You know, if you act as if you know, the ZEDEs are the last Coke in the desert, and you're a politician, you're going to have a lot of opposition to that position. So you need to navigate that cleverly, and you need to be astute about how you navigate that politically. But they have the tools. And what we're saying is, look, let's not waste any time. You guys only have 4 years. There might be a re-election of sorts, but you only have 4 years. We need to get this done quickly so that you can bring a ton of money into the zone right away.
I love the fact you're just describing competition in governance, which is another one of the memes that's being proven.
Yeah. It's another one of the memes being proven. Absolutely.
Talking of that, though, is the new government, are they going to be tough on crime, a la Bukele was? Or because you've got a pretty serious crime problem in Honduras as well, is that right?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't.
Was it? Can you compare it to Honduras to El Salvador? I mean, El Salvador got all the press about the gangs.
Yep.
But I know, for example, that Choloma, which is right next to Morazan, is well known for being an absolutely terribly violent place.
Yep. Well, I think. I don't know what this government's going to do. I haven't sat down with anybody that's looking at that aspect. I would be surprised if they didn't feel like they wanted to act decisively about it, because I think the thing that Bukele did is it showed that if you act in that manner, there are political winnings for you. So just from a political perspective, there's the right thing. There's the right thing to do as as an execution leader in government, which is to make the country safe. And then, but it was always fraught with this idea that you were violating the human rights of the criminals and all these things. But what Bukele showed is that you can actually be tough on crime and win politically. So that is an enormous example. And I would think that the government of Honduras is probably going to see that and react accordingly.
From talking to people, I understand Bukele's not interested in any kind of projects like this.
No.
I wonder why that is. He's just got his vision, right? Is it?
Yeah, I'm going to speculate again. I've not spoken to him directly. I've spoken to some of the people around him. But I think Bukele has a very Lee Kuan Yew vision for El Salvador. And Lee Kuan Yew, a brilliant politician. Look, you see the results and you're like, wow, amazing. Top down in terms of political leadership, probably saw the problems, that happened when you weren't tough on certain things, and so that's his vision, and that's what he's going for. I don't think he wants any competition within his own country.
But the lesson, I suppose, is that in Latin America, if you have a thing, his thing was the tough on crime, maybe the Bitcoin thing. If in Honduras you've got the ZEDEs, if you've got that unique thing, that unique selling point, hopefully you get a lot of the attention. And in Bukele's case, it's, I mean, he's a worldwide famous now for what he's done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing, really, when you think about it, for such a small country.
Yeah, you do have a problem, and that problem happens in, I guess, the two best known countries right now in Latin America, El Salvador and Argentina. The question always is in investors' mind, and keep in mind, from my perspective, you only win if you're able to 10x your investment into a country like this, because otherwise you won't really move the needle. So you need the 10x the amount of investment. So the problem is, the question in investors' mind is that going to last? The 4 years or whatever, however long that president is in power. Or is the pendulum going to swing right back, and then in 4 years I made billions of dollars of investment and now they're taking them from me? And that's the advantage that Honduras has, because Honduras has, through the ZEDEs, through Prospera, 50 years of legal stability. And there's a contract that you sign, and you sign a contract that gives you those established conditions, so you can sue against that contract. Who's going to sue Bukele? Who's going to sue the government of Bukele or the government of Milei? Nobody.
And you have a president now, which is the most important part. You did sue, and it worked.
And it worked. I mean, had a carrot and a stick. A carrot and a stick. Yeah. You need to have unfortunately, you need to have a carrot and a stick.
What about other countries in the area then? Do you have people coming over here to check you out, and
More and more. We've also gone out and talked to other governments. For some, it depends on it. So there's a couple of things that have to happen. One is it an ideologically minded person that gets it, gets competitive governance, gets legal stability? Does he get all of these things? If they get it, then they get the idea, and then the question mostly in their mind is what they did in Honduras going to survive? How would I apply that here? Would it be a net positive or net negative politically for me? Because at the end of the day, their incentive is towards power. Our incentive is towards the creation of value, because then we create value for our shareholders. So it's a different set of incentives, right? And you have to keep that in mind. And so I think there's a country right now that's pursuing an MOU with us. That we didn't go to them, they came to us. There are other countries that we are trying to get them enticed into what we're doing. I think the best way to grow this, honestly, though, is to make the Honduran example such a powerful example that everybody wants it. Everybody wants it. That's the way to do it.
And would your purpose be to sort of franchise the Prospera brand, or would it be to in other countries?
We have two models. One is what we provide really is governance as a service. We capture a lot of that value through the real estate. We don't have to be owners of 100% of the real estate. The way we've set it up here is we have a legal entity that we're going to eventually, one of the ideas is to float it as a REIT, to be able to get capital in and capital out to investors. So the two models are we can license the governance as a service model, and then people operate it, third parties operate it, or we partner, we JV or whatever. And we're looking at some of that right now.
I mean, it's amazing to think of where it could all go. That's what I've started thinking about in this last year.
Yeah.
I think
it really can go amazing places.
Yeah, I mean, but really, in not in the traditional sense of starting a business and running it. Yep. It's a completely different thing. It's like it's a cultural change. It's a worldwide. I mean, I've always known it's a movement, but I suppose for the first few years of mixing in these circles, I've felt a little bit like it's something that's going to happen. Yep. For the last 6 months, for the first time, I feel like it's actually happening. It's actually happening now. Yeah. And I'm watching it. It's albeit a very early stage of it. Yeah. It is actually happening. Yeah. That's it. It's an incredible feeling.
It's an incredible feeling. I just spoke to a guy, an Italian, who is really enthusiastic about the idea because he sees it as a parallel to what happened in the 1800s and 1700s, I guess, in Italy, where we had the Duchy of Milan, the Republic of Florence, all these republics, all these city-states, if you wanted. And granted, I don't think you don't have city-states anymore in the sense of full sovereignty, but they competed intensely against each other. The beauty is we now have a world where semi-autonomous zones can compete intensely with each other again and create the same amount of wealth and innovation. They don't have to be new nations. There's no need to carve out new nations from existing nations. It doesn't need to be that way.
Well, and the innovation there is, like you say, the 50-year
legal stability. Yeah.
I mean, that when you put it like that, that is the number one most important aspect of this whole thing.
Yes, I agree. Basically, you have a signed social agreement, which is 50 years in the making, and you can renew it another 50 years, right? So you don't have to stop at 50 years.
I mean, it's amazing. It is. I mean, when you actually think about it, I've been on a long journey with all this stuff, and those kind of things are a couple of layers down. It's easy to look around and go, oh yeah, it's great because the entrepreneurs are here, they're doing this, there's biotech, there's this, but actually the foundation of all this stuff, which is now shown that it's an abstract power. It's a really strong abstract power that basically holds the whole thing together. Yeah. Without it, you don't really have a ZEDE. A ZEDE doesn't really exist. You have a place. You're just building a place. The legal structure, and do you think there's, I mean, obviously the legality is proven to be the most important one. Do you think what are the other important protections that you see, having been through the process now?
The ultimate protection is to have a large amount of people, families living in the zone that are nationals of the host country that have political say in national and municipal governments, and who basically can see that their well-being derives from the zone itself. Because then if you're talking, like I have 4 kids, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that those 4 kids have a good opportunity and can have a better life than I did, for sure.
That's a good point, actually. There's 2 schools of thought, aren't there, in the sort of free city world? One is you attract outsiders, and the other is you basically shouldn't really care about outsiders too much. This is a local market economy, and I hear you say that. It sounds like you're like, no, this is for locals. Yeah. But what we see at the moment is very much there's not a huge amount of Hondurans here compared. No, I've only lived here for 3 days, so forgive me. But I everyone I've seen, bar a few people that are working here,
have you heard of the saying? I don't know if you can say that in English. Nobody's a prophet in their own land. Do you have something like that in English?
No, I don't know.
Right. There's in Spanish. There's a saying. Nadie es profeta en su tierra. Nobody's a prophet in their own land. So you create this amazing system, and who were the takers? Foreigners. Hondurans had the same opportunity to do it as we did, but they were suspicious of it because probably they were suspicious of the people pushing it. But we didn't have that baggage, right? So we just came in and we looked at it, and it took a long time and it was difficult, but we took it on. In the same way, this happened with the maquila in Honduras in the 1980s. The maquila in Honduras, which are these free zones where you can import raw materials and export the finished product, they were done by foreigners first. And all the top brass in those companies were foreigners. Within a few years, the companies were Honduran and the top brass were Honduran because they were trained up. So arguably one of the biggest things that's going to happen here is you're going to train up a local population to do things like biotech, like fintech. You're already seeing a lot of entrepreneurs that are Honduran coming in and rubbing shoulders with the foreign entrepreneurs. And their ambitions become larger and their visions become larger and the value they can add becomes larger. But I think it's natural to see first the foreigners because they've been trying to do things in their own country and haven't been able to do it because of regulatory barriers. Come do those things here. And then the locals see that and say, hey, we can do that too. And the foreigners want the locals, and the locals want the foreigners, and then you create more value because of the synergy there. But eventually, absolutely, there's no doubt in my mind, this is going to be primarily Hondurans, 100%.
There's building going on.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Someone's building something as we speak. Well, of course, Morazan have a different model, the Entrecon model, which is basically built for locals.
Yep.
So
primarily, but more residential in nature initially.
I mean, it's interesting. I think I came in, like I say, on my journey through this world, this space. It was always, this is a digital nomad type scenario. And there was a few people at the Charter Cities Institute that pointed out, no, you're building these, the best market, if you're taking it purely from a business perspective, which is a good idea as well, is you want to build cities that are better than the cities that are there. And the ideology, the legal stuff, it doesn't actually matter. What matters is, do they want to move there because it's a better life?
Yes,
but absolutely. I do see now, though, that I think you should invite everyone. You know, like a lot of people have been not talking too favourably about the digi-nomads recently because they say, they come but they don't stay, and I agree that that's kind of true. There is that aspect, but they're also really good at other things like publicity. They're brilliant at when digi-nomads arrive at a place, you might get a couple of years of a lot of flutter and a lot of buzz. And that's all good. Yep. I think it's all good. I think the strategy should be, like come one, come all,
I personally think it's a mistake to build something just for digital nomads, hoping that they'll stay. Because if they're digital nomads, there's something that compels them internally to move around.
Sure.
So and people only end up staying once they have kids or once they establish a family because the kids need to go to school. They need to have them stable. So some of the digital nomads that end up being in families, they will end up staying because this is where their families now live. This is where the kids go to school. This is where they have their friends, their social life. But if they're just digital nomads, no kids, no nothing, more than likely they're going to move around.
Well, and also I've been speaking to a few of the nomads here who've got new projects on the horizon, and the best ideas I've heard recently is how to get families to nomad.
Yes.
Nomad family villages.
Oh,
and
interesting.
Yeah. I can't believe it hasn't been done before. Because it's true. When you talk to nomads, and if you're like, I've been a traveller my whole life, and I often have conversations that end with, but I've got kids now.
Well, you and I were talking about that earlier, but I think that it's, when we looked at who would move here, the guys that are going to move here, the most likely are the guys that are entrepreneurial minded or local, not entrepreneurial minded, that don't have kids. Because if you have kids, they're in school, they have friends, they ride horses, they have all these things, they have a life. I couldn't move here 100% because I had 4 kids that were in school. I'm divorced, so I could have, had I not been divorced, maybe I could have brought them all with me. But that's, you have to, it's interesting that you have to think of community as well, and not just a legal system that you're trying to build.
No, I agree. I think community. If I was to criticize the way you have done things in the last few years, I'd say the community was the weakest thing that you had. Yeah. And that sort of like meshed together with PR as well, because community and PR, like you said earlier, the unsung heroes of your PR should really be the community. Yep. They should be fighting on your behalf. And yep. It's a criticism, but it's not that I think I could have done it any better. It's just obvious to look at from the outside.
I think you point out something that's important. I wish we would have done things differently, but I don't think we could have, because of the necessity of where we were, and we needed the thing to survive. And that required us to talk about the things we talked about, defend ourselves, talk about the benefits, talk about the investment, which doesn't talk about necessarily about how to bring kids here, how to bring. Now, I think our message is going to change, and we actually have a sort of a dual track. We have the state, what we call the statecraft, which is talking about the things institutionally that Prospera does, and then the how do we attract all these amazing people out there that are trying to do things that are great and can't do them where they're at, or they just want to go somewhere there where this energy exists, right? Because the thing about you and I were talking about too is this energy that exists here. You talk to Eduardo, you talk to Ivan, you talk to Nicholas, you talk to all these guys with these amazing ideas, and everybody's go, 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 create, build, build, build. It's an amazing, for a guy like me who's an entrepreneur, this is like you're sitting in your own cocktail sauce, right? Marinating in it. It's just wonderful.
No, yeah, agreed, 100%. I suppose we better talk about, before we go, the sort of the plans then.
Sure, let's talk about that, because I have a few more minutes.
Okay, all right. What? Well, try and lay out some timelines for me if you can. Yeah.
Well, I think the future, the short-term future looks. The most important thing on the horizon is coming to an agreement with the government of Honduras. There's an ongoing litigation in ICSID. And there's different institutions involved. There's the government of Honduras lawyer, which is called the Attorney General of Honduras. There's Prospera's legal team, and there's the World Bank ICSID team with arbiters. And so all that needs to be wound down legally if we come to an agreement, which I expect that we should. That's really, really important, because what that's going to do is it's going to provide the legal certainty that what we've been saying all along is that this is a project that's here to stay is true. So that's an enormous, on the political framework aspect of things that needs to get done. Then we focus heavily on attracting more entrepreneurs. We can start the Mainland hub, which is a nearshoring hub. It's an enormous amount of an investment that's catalyzed by companies that want to come, but there's a port involved, there's light manufacturing involved, there's manufacturing involved, there's energy involved, there's all these things that are involved in a part of Honduras that's sort of forgotten. So we're not going to compete with what's already established. We're bringing new things to a place that's already sort of forgotten. That's really, really big. And it takes time to build. You don't build a port in 2 weeks. It takes.
Is it a port already, did you say? Is it deep water and stuff like that?
No, there's what's called a port of, it's a small ferry port, so it's not very deep. You need to dredge.
Right, so you're going to have to literally.
Yeah, you have to literally dredge. Wow. You have to change the angles of the arms of the port. You have to.
I mean, it's a massive infrastructure.
It's a massive. I mean, we're talking $600 million to $1 billion worth of investment.
Blimey.
So in a country like Honduras, that really moves the needle, right? And it's going to be deployed over years. Yeah.
Yeah, you're telling me. And just on the legal stuff, what's the timescale on that? Like, realistically, are people like, yeah, let's just get this. It's like, because that's the closing the lid on the whole thing, yes. Pretty much, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, ideally, it would happen before the first semester's out. Ideally, will it? Well, I mean, I think politically, this is when you have the most political capital, these first 100 days. So it makes the most sense to do that. It's like when you wake up in the morning, you should do the most difficult task early. This is like doing the most difficult task early.
But it's not having an effect on the way you're moving forward necessarily anyway. No. For us, part of the situation before used to be that we used to talk about everything we were doing positively, and the government would come out and speak terribly of us. So for an investor,
you'd be like, ooh, well, who do I believe? Prospera or the government? Well, usually you end up believing the government. So the negative rhetoric really hurt. So if we can get over the hump of that, and we're already seeing it privately, then,
Yeah, great. Well, look, Gabe, thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
You're a busy man, I know. Meeting with, I saw the text you just sent me. That sounded crazy. I won't say what it is, but that seems like a very strange person to talk to. Do they even understand?
They understand it and they're excited about it. I'm surprised. Yeah. And
what, to do it back in that place?
I mean, I think they're learning more about what we're doing and they're providing ideas on what we could do. I'm surprised too.
Great. I mean, I'm a positive guy, and
me too.
that is like super positive. But anyway, thanks for coming in.
Pleasure, Tim.
Many congrats on everything, and it's like so good to be here.
I'm glad you're staying a month.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah, you're going to become a local for a month. That's amazing.
Well, why not? Like I said, like I have to, not only because I wanted to, but because this is the time to as well. You can see the wave happening. Yep. So it's like when the Bitcoin law passed in El Salvador, we went out there. Yeah. Why not? I want to be there when it's happening, and all the ideas and understandings that you get from that, and watching what's happening. You can see the same things here. You can see that early stage and the supreme optimism and the attracting of people that just can do people rather than people complaining about stuff.
I think you nailed something on the head. There's no more optimistic place than Prospera today, I would think.
Amen to that.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Cheers.